Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Police have confirmed that the OPP has officially come on board to help investigate the ongoing threats to Hammarskjold High School.
This as the school was closed yet again today due to another anonymous threat. Police have also finally made public the fact that all of the threats have come through Crime Stoppers, and that's made it challenging to identify a suspect. The Thunder Bay Police Service has brought in some much-needed reinforcements. Detective Inspector Ryan Hughes has confirmed that the Ontario Provincial Police have recently become involved in the ongoing investigation.
They have more extensive resources. They have more specialty units that we don't have within Thunder Bay Police Service. So we will request some assistance from those units.
Hughes won't say exactly what the OPP's role is, noting only that the investigation is still under the control of Thunder Bay Police, with the provincial agency playing a supporting role. Hughes also confirmed what police have been reluctant to make public until now, that all of the threats have come in through Crime Stoppers. And that has hampered the investigation, as Crime Stoppers is mandated to maintain the anonymity of its callers.
It's very time-consuming and difficult for us to try to identify. We are working at it, but to this date, it's still Crime Stoppers tips that are coming in. They are anonymous and they are protected.
He adds they're now working to find legal avenues to identify the tipster.
We are dealing with our Crown's office and other specialists within Ontario dealing with that.
Hughes notes the police service has dedicated a lot of officer hours to solving the crimes, with 5 full-time investigators working behind the scenes, in addition to the uniformed officers who respond to each call. He also says they're receiving on average about 5 tips a day through the Thunder Bay Police dedicated tip line at 684-5001. Hughes could not say how close they are to making an arrest.
Thunder Bay Police are investigating an early morning robbery that took place on Syndicate Avenue. Officers were dispatched to the Copperfin Credit Union at 9:45 this morning and now are looking for the public's help in identifying the suspect. Police released this surveillance image, which shows the male suspect inside the credit union. He allegedly demanded money before fleeing in a northbound direction with an undisclosed amount of cash. The business is currently closed. Anyone with information is asked to call Thunder Bay Police.
One day after delivering the Ford government's first budget, Ontario Finance Minister Vic Fedeli is calling it a responsible plan for balancing the province's books. It's a plan that calls for reduced spending over a number of years before eliminating the deficit in 5 years' time. But critics say it will result in serious impacts to services. Colin DeMello reports.
The day after delivering his first budget, Finance Minister Vic Fedeli says his 5-year path to balance is responsible.
We're balancing the budget in a reasonable way that protects healthcare and education and all the core services that people of Ontario have relied upon.
But balancing the books will come at a cost, particularly to the 2 largest sectors in Ontario, health and education. Over the next 5 years, those budgets will move like molasses. Health will grow by just 7%. Education will grow by only 1.3%. Teachers say it would mean classroom cuts.
The education system, as we've said, is already in need of investments. And if you're not even keeping up with the rate of inflation or the cost to run those programs over and above the lack of funding, it's problematic.
Healthcare workers say the small increases won't help combat hallway medicine.
We have, people lying on stretchers, well reported in hallways all across the province. We have the fewest hospital beds left of any province in Canada, the fewest nurses per patient of any province in Canada. And so the cuts are going to have to come from closures of beds, cuts to staff, longer operating room closures. There's no other choice.
But the Minister of Finance says ministries across the board won't see mass spending decreases, but rather savings from digitization.
When you look and wonder why are some of these budgets reduced, it's because we've modernized and we're saving the taxpayer money and we're bringing choice and convenience to families.
It's all in an effort to achieve that balanced budget.
Ontario residents have now had a full day to look through the Ford government's first provincial budget. And today, Thunder Bay's mayor and the president of NOMA voiced their thoughts on how the spending plan will affect our region. Shane Pasquino has more.
After the Progressive Conservative government released the first budget of their mandate, which is projected to run an over $10 billion deficit, Thunder Bay Mayor Bill Morrow is left with more questions than answers.
We didn't hear mention of the new jail, which was a pretty strong, pretty clear commitment. We didn't hear any commitment to cardiac surgery, which was a pretty strong, clear commitment. The guns and gangs piece, some money to help the police, which we've been lobbying for quite some time. We didn't hear anything about that except for the $16 million, which is over 2 years, which is for the whole province. So there's lots to be concerned about at this point.
The Ford government also pumped the brakes on the Liberals' plan to increase provincial gas tax funding for municipalities. Thunder Bay have been receiving about $2 million annually from the province through the tax.
And it was intended to increase by 2021 to be doubled. So for Thunder Bay, that would have meant another $500,000 per year. So from the $2 million to 2.5 to 3, ending up at $4 million. And now that's been put on hold or canceled. I'm not sure which yet, but that will mean over the term of this municipal government, a loss of $2 million, about $500 a year if in fact it does not happen or come to fruition.
Like Morrow, Wendy Landry, president of NOMA, is trying to remain optimistic of what's to come despite the significant cuts in many areas.
We were encouraged by the plan for the strategy for the forestry industry. We've been advocating for the forestry industry for some time. We're hoping that gives an opportunity for Made in Ontario Woodworks. 15,000 beds, long-term beds. We're hoping that flows this way as well. So not a lot of information from municipalities at this time, but we remain cautiously optimistic on hopefully some of the changes. The announcement on the transit piece, we're hoping that benefits this area as well, maybe through Bombardier getting some of that work.
Once more information is released, Landry says NOMA can move forward with dialogue involving the different ministries to try and figure out what's best for Northwestern Ontario.
We make sure that we're advocating for the Northwest and our municipalities and our communities to ensure that they keep us in mind and keep the Northwest in mind when they're making their decisions on what these cuts look like and where exactly they're going to happen.
NOMA's annual general meeting begins April 24th in Thunder Bay, and up to 4 PC government ministers are expected to be here to meet with regional politicians. Shane Pasquino, TVT News.
Thunder Bay's new transportation master plan could bring some big changes to some of the city's major streets. The plan calls for 3 busy corridors to be reduced from 4 lanes of vehicle traffic down to 2 plus a turning lane. The final draft of the 100-page plan was released to the public today. Among the proposals is what's called a road diet, which would impact all of North James Street and a large section of Oliver Road. The number of vehicle lanes on those sections would be reduced in favor of additional bike lanes and on-street parking. There's also a plan for similar changes on a section of Red River Road for bike lanes and new trees along the image route. City Engineering Director Kayla Dixon says any changes would require further study and also council approval.
The road diets on James and Oliver both address the ability to put new bike lanes on those streets. So basically we'll take those 4-lane cross sections, reduce them down to 3 travel lanes, and then have the additional travel lane where we now have the option to put bike lane infrastructure on. I mean, certainly drivers will have concerns around congestion and will it take longer for them to get where they need to go.
The Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Plan also include proposals for city transit route changes, new sidewalks, and an ultimate cycling network from the South Core to the North Core. The total price tag is estimated at $127 million over a 20-year span. Copies of the 2 plans can be viewed at City Hall, Victoriaville, the 4 libraries, or online. Public comments can be submitted until May 13th.
Officials with T-Baytel say their latest acquisition has future-proofed them for the coming years. The locally owned utility obtained a block of 600 megahertz wireless spectrum from the federal government earlier this week. The increase to T-Baytel's spectrum means more capacity for a world with expanded mobile use. Also, when the time comes, the company can roll out a 5G mobility network. T-Baytel CEO Dan Topatai says it will be 3 to 4 years before that happens, but the added spectrum brings greater transmission capabilities that residents across the Northwest will enjoy.
It will also help to provide a broadband signal on a wireless basis to rural and semi-rural environments, because the characteristics of this particular spectrum allow us to propagate very long distances, which is useful in a semi-rural environment.
Topatai says customers won't notice a difference for over a year's time. The price tag for the spectrum was $2.8 million.
Two candidates have stepped forward to seek the NDP nomination in Thunder Bay Rainy River for this fall's federal election. Jason Storkson and Yuksem Wan have both served as union leaders in their respective fields after being educated at Lakehead University. Storkson is currently the president of the Anishinaabe Police Association, representing the 170 NAPS officers. Wan, meanwhile, is a student conduct manager at LU and has also worked as a grievance officer with OPSU. Both of them insist they're well suited for public office as the riding's NDP candidate.
The NDP right now has always really had the same values as the community in Northwestern Ontario. So it's always been really good, well matched. And for our riding right now, it's an opportunity to have that representation back.
I'm a centrist myself, and I think the NDP has migrated into the center, left center. And I think that Liberals have gone far right, and PCs have gone really far right. And I think the NDP are going to be the voice of reason in the future.
The NDP nomination meeting for Thunder Bay Rainy River is expected to be held sometime near the end of May.
A group of Thunder Bay residents came together today to join a worldwide movement to keep the planet clean. The so-called climate strike at City Hall was meant to pressure governments around the globe to address climate disruption. Ben Nesbitt has more.
Hey, ho, ho. Climate change has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
A group of passionate supporters made a stand to better the environment. The movement, known as Future School Climate Strike, includes people in over 100 countries, all pushing governments to address climate disruption. And the movement has not gone unnoticed, as there will now be a discussion on climate change at the UN summit in September. Local organizer and LU student Caroline Morelli-Dill says it's a special feeling to know that they're helping make strides to improve the future of the planet.
It's really encouraging, and like the fact that there's like that UN summit now that's being called really makes it feel like it's doing something, and the fact that we're being heard and just seeing that there's like people that are interested and people care, it just kind of makes it feel worth it, especially on a global scale. So just like being part of something so big is really, really cool.
Local supporter Blake Evans says a big part of keeping the earth clean is having strength in numbers when it comes to support.
Keeping these spaces clean and safe is really important to me and to the future. And I believe that when more people can generate together and project their ideals on keeping the climate at a stable level and the environment in a clean state, we are able to feel better on the inside and then feel better with the environment being clean.
A nationwide climate strike is planned for May 3rd. Ben Nesbitt, TBT News.